Turns out the world's most famous newspaper cartoonist from 1903 to 1930, Clare Briggs, was born in Reedsburg in 1875. His family lived here for 9 more years before moving to Dixon, Illinois, and then to Omaha, Nebraska a few years later. It was the memories from his childhood times here that inspired him to create several cartoon series that were embraced by the country. Thanks to the efforts of Gordon Emery, Reedsburg has learned a lot about Briggs and his accomplishments. Beginning in 1965, Gordy spent the next 10 years researching the life and times of Clare Briggs. Since this was before the internet existed, everything was done by mail and lots of legwork. Piece by piece, year by year, Gordy was able to accumulate information about Briggs until finally he received a reply from a member of the Briggs family in 1976. They also included 5 original cartoons drawn by Briggs 50 years earlier. Clare is credited with creating the very first daily comic strip series that was syndicated by the Chicago American. It was a daily comic that ran on the sports page that gave readers a racehorse tip every day. The strip featured Mr. Clerk, a character with a gambling problem, who placed daily bets on horses in the Chicago races each day. The following day, Clerk's win or loss was posted. The cartoon started in December of 1903, brought national fame to Briggs, but it was canceled in 1904 after just a few months of publication. However, it did inspire similar strips in other newspapers and eventually was responsible for the creation of the comics page in daily papers. He worked for Hearst Communications for almost 30 years in Chicago and New York. He created several popular cartoon series over the years, many which became national catchphrases. Ain't it a grand and glorious feeling? Danny Dreamer, The Days of Real Sport, Mr. and Mrs., How to Start a Day Wrong, There's at least one in every office, and When a Feller Needs a Friend. Mr. and Mrs. ran during the last years of his life and continued in syndication after his death under his name until 1963, while being drawn by other artists. When a Feller Needs a Friend featured the names of several childhood friends from his years in Reedsburg. Due to his growing popularity, Briggs didn't confine himself to just drawing cartoons. In 1914, he appeared on the vaudeville circuit for 5 weeks. He was also well paid and a popular speaker. There was even a product endorsement, Briggs Pipe Tobacco. Every can included one of his cartoon series catchphrases, When a Feller Needs a Friend. In 1919, he wrote and produced 18 films for Paramount Pictures. These were 10-minute, one-reel, silent black and white films based on his cartoon series, Days of Real Sport. The character Skinny was portrayed by the same actor in all 18 films. The Mr. and Mrs. radio series, based on Briggs' strip, created in 1919, followed the combative marriage of Joe and Vi Green, a rundown, lower-middle-class couple for whom the bloom of romance had long since shriveled into numbness. This show became the blueprint for later such battling spouse comedies such as The Naggers, a series of 18 short films, and The Bickersons, of which started out as a radio program starring Don Amici. Each installment of Mr. and Mrs. focused the antagonism and barely suppressed mutual loathing between husband and wife. Mr. and Mrs. caught on as one of the big successes of the 1930 radio season, and it was the first self-contained half-hour weekly situation comedy on network radio. Clare and his wife Ruth were married for 29 years and had 3 children. They divorced in February 1929. 9 months later, in September, neuritis of the optic nerve led Briggs to Baltimore for treatment at Johns Hopkins Hospital. Shortly after his treatment at Johns Hopkins, he was admitted to the Neurological Institute of New York. He died there on January 3, 1930, due to pneumonia. As he requested, his ashes were scattered over New York Harbor. One of his daughters, 21-year-old Clare, drew cartoons under the name of Miss Clare Briggs and was syndicated from 1939 to 1941. She visited Reedsburg in 1939. She made it a point to visit the old swimming hole made famous by her father down by the ballpark, just south of the railroad bridge. She also wandered through his old neighborhood, just a couple blocks away. Thanks to Emery's hard work and perseverance, 2 historical markers were installed in Reedsburg. The largest one was issued as part of the Wisconsin State Historical Marker Program. It was placed 2 miles east of town next to the Reedsburg Historical Society grounds. A smaller plaque was installed in Webb Park. Besides displaying many of the drawings in his store, Emery's Emporium, located at 249 East Main Street, Gordy also made available over 100 cartoons, which ran in the Times Press, 1 a week for 2.5 years. Many of the drawings are now located at the Reedsburg Historical Society with the Briggs display. Another exhibit is located in City Hall near the council chambers. Several books of his cartoons were published and are available through the library and Amazon.